All right, getting ready for practice. I guess the new stuff would be James Washington released him yesterday, officially signed Simmons. You guys all know about Jakeem Grant getting hurt with the hamstring, so he's out. I think that's the only stuff that's fairly new, Led, unless there's something that you're going to call me out on now. What's the matter? Oh, blank.
Got a blank, yeah.
Yeah, pretty healthy. Healthy day, man. Our trainer didn't have to touch the field on game day, which is always a good thing, particularly in preseason, you know.
You discussed, bringing the new guys in and probably different approaches. Where
Sure.
you at with your performance staff consultation and how you plan to move forward with Matthew and Justin?
So Matthew's been doing a lot more than we thought, just from a standpoint. You know, we had just some previous research. We knew he was in his joint practices, but you didn't know how much he had been doing up until that. So he had clear, open communication with Griffin, our strength coach, and he feels like he's at the point where he really could probably go full go, but we're going to go full individual, probably about 50% of those reps to kind of acclimate him into our practice, you know, because you don't know what everybody's practice is like. But to get him going so you can get a chance to see him today. And with Justin, he's been working out, doing his own thing, but we'll get him with some individual and then off on the side, being able to get with our trainers to find out where he is, to see where his capacity is, and then we'll get a chance to get into him some team stuff later down the road, but we'll get some jog through, some walk through things with him, which would be good for us.
Individuals for both of them.
Individuals for both, a little bit more for Judon, you know. And I get a better feel when we get out there, Judon. I think he's ready to go, but you don't ever want to assume when it comes to performance.
At what point would you want to have those guys full go in practice to feel like they're ready week one to know everything you'd like them to know?
Well, you're talking about two experienced vets that got some experience with similar defenses, if not the same, or calls, things of that nature. Talking to those guys in this process, whether it be both of those guys, when you talk about what we do and how we do it and going about the process, you can feel real intellectual, smart football players who can just pick up on it and be able to do whatever you needed to do in order to get ready. So I feel good on that lead-up week going into the Pittsburgh game and getting those guys ready to go, like that you can do it. But, you know, obviously we'll have more of a feel for that after today and this week.
Do those two guys, because of their veteran status and the players that they are, change the capacity of this defense? Not just necessarily make you better at what you could do, but give you more things you might be able to.
Josh, I'm always a player-first guy. It's always driven through that, and it's like, you know, you want to do what the players do really well, and these two guys bring a unique skill set. You know, Justin with his ball skills, his unique skill set to get the ball back. I mean, I can't remember the exact number of interceptions he has in the league, but it's a lot over the last couple of years. And then you're talking about Judon with his ability to affect the passer. And he's really unique because you've seen him in two different systems, do it two different ways. You know, one in New England on the line of scrimmage, calling games and doing that thing from a standpoint of third down and 8+, watching him actually control some of those things. And then a third down and short, being able to play a really smart and high capacity that way. And then also watching him when he was in Baltimore, you know, do some of the other different things from the line of scrimmage, setting edges and blitzing from different spots and areas. Two really exciting players in their own right. I just can't wait to get them on the grass now. They're here. They're on the grass. We'll get some nice evaluations this week on what they can do and what they could be. And then it's up to us to go make it happen.
When you add two impact players like that, as far as the acceleration of how quickly they can really, contribute and become, kind of cohesive with the team, what does that look like, and just what is the impact those two guys can have?
You know, you'd always want to say positive impacts when you talk about adding people, you know, but you look at players, you want to add positive people, you want to add the people that fit your ethos and how you work and how you go about your business. With Justin, we have probably had even more of a feel for that, you know, being able to go out to dinner with him, sit down with him, let him be around some of our players. With Matthew, it probably happened a little bit faster on the FaceTime that we're allowed to have with them and being able to talk to him and do some of those different things, you know, with the blessing of the Patriots and going through the proper channels and all that stuff. But just talking to those guys, trying to figure out what we wanted and how they were going to fit our football team and what it would look like moving forward, you really felt good about it. You know, we didn't want to have some of those unfortunate situations that other teams have. So you want to have clear communication on what we can do now and what's happening and all those things. So getting these guys out here and prepared to play, it's going to be fun, exciting for both our coaches and the players that play with those guys, you know, and then obviously the fan base. The fan base has been really excited about it all weekend. I think that's always fun things to see when you go out and play football.
How did
and coach it.
Matthew in Baltimore kind of help with getting to know him and kind of acclimating him just with the team dynamic?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
How did having Matthew in Baltimore kind of help with that, getting to know him and all that?
Judon,
Yeah.
when he was in Baltimore.
Oh, like this.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you say Baltimore, I'm like, man, when I played him in 2016.
This past weekend.
No, it was good for him to come. You know, he got here. He came in a duffel bag, and he was just ready to roll. He really was. It was unbelievable. He was ready to roll. You got a chance to see his personality come out. You got a chance. He stole my seat on the bus one. We got a chance I got to establish some dominance pretty early on that, but he came in, was able to show his personality a little bit. He was able to be around some of the guys. He was able to go back and, I had a couple coaches from Baltimore ask him, we're going to play him on his revenge tour. I'm like, no, we're good. But he showed his personality a little bit, get him a chance to be around the team and kind of how we operate. Everything's a learning curve when you talk about having a new player. It's not the first time he's going to be acclimated to a new team. He's a grown man and all right. So it was just good to have him with us.
It was a report came out yesterday saying that
I didn't do it.
New England gave Matt 2 options to pick. It was up to him. They had essentially like the same offer. But the fact that he chose Atlanta, I mean, what is that saying? What does that mean to you?
I heard that. And you hear all that rumor stuff when you go through the process. Terry does most of the talking to Elliot Wolf at the time and whoever else we're talking to about doing some of those things. I'm involved if needed, usually when it gets the permission to talk to the actual player. But like I said at the press conference, people want to come here. A lot of that's because of, Kirk Cousins being able to come in, give us a quarterback, the team that we have, Bijan Robinson, some of those guys that are playing here, Kyle Pitts, the GM number 2, our assistant GM, all those guys, man, they're definitely factors on people wanting to come here and play. And it's a lot of fun when you get people wanting to come and trying to find ways to fit in what we're doing. And that's always a good thing. So.
That's the culture that you brought in here. I mean, mostly all the players talk about you coming in and the culture and how it is and the camaraderie and everything.
I don't know how to answer this one. Yeah, it's about me. No, no, man. It's the culture that's been put in place here with these guys, with our organization, with Arthur Blank. First and foremost, I didn't spend the money to fix that locker room that you guys saw. Arthur did, and the lunchroom that you guys were able to walk around and see, and the weight room that we're committed to. And going out and getting a quarterback in free agency, yet still thinking about the future with Michael Penix. We were a part of all those things, but it's a combination of the guys that were already here, the combination of the players that were brought in, the combination of the players that were here, our owner, the building just in general. It's a good vibe. So I don't want to take unnecessary credit, but it's certainly a part of all the things that we're doing here and that I think we're doing the right way.
At the safety position, there's this kind of traditional notion of the free safety being the rangy, athletic guy, and the strong safety being the harder hitter, box defender. With 2 safeties like Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, who profile, I would say, relatively similar in terms of being that playmaker type, how do you see them fitting in together, playing together side by side?
I think that notion of the strong safety and free safety went out the window a while ago. It's kind of disappeared in the National Football League where safety started to get smaller, when the strike zones got smaller, and all of those things happen. You got to kind of be interchangeable. We were looking for that a long time ago, as Led knows, and I think people have really been doing that for a minute. I think the last kind of system that really featured that was the Seattle 3 with the Cam Chancellor and the Earl Thomas. A couple people mimicked it, but realistically, it started to look like 2 interchangeable pieces that can do different things, which those guys are. And the unique and great ball skills that they have makes those 2 guys special. And, I've always felt it was going that way anyway, from a long time ago, when the guys started getting smaller, you start looking at corners to transition to safeties, a la Ternard Jackson way back when we were in Tampa and some of those type of things. But that's just where it's going. And, look at the Buffalo Bills, what they did with Poyer and the 2 guys that they had for all those years, talking about former corners coming out of college that turned into safeties that played really well. Really good football down the stretch for those guys, keeping a roof on the coverage and some of those things.
How excited do you get about those 2 guys playing together? As someone who played the position yourself, and
thank you.
They're both cerebral. They're both smart.
I like how you put me in it. I was down. Me and Lance was a comparable at Hofstra. We dominated. No, it's exciting, but the exciting part for me is as you guys know, is practice. Right, getting on the grass and watching these guys go play, it'd be something that I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, we won't see that today, but moving forward and getting into direction. And let's not kid ourselves. Like, I'm excited to see Richie. I'm excited to see all of those guys work together, right? And then finding roles and how we're going to play all three of those guys and finding different areas. Like, no different than what we do at our linebacker spot, our inside linebacker spots. What we talked about, feeling like you have those three starters and people that can really affect your team and affect it. You know, as a coach, it's your job to find ways to make good players be productive. And I see it no different with Richie, with Justin, with Jesse, and all those guys. Whoever else can get into that mix, you know, DeMarco comes back, whatever the case may be. It's just like those are great problems to have as a coach.
From the moment you got here, you've always set a vision week to week, what you want to see. And now that we're here at this week, you know, what goals have been met, what have been exceeded, you know, maybe some goals that haven't been met at this point in the season.
The goals that have been met is we're kind of forming our team and where we feel like we're getting closer and closer to formulating the 53-man roster, right? We still got a couple more weeks to do that, right? The goals have been met where people have kind of identified some roles that they're going to be able to play in and actually get accomplished now within the framework of how I feel it and how I think and how we think. Hate to use the word I. But some other things that people don't have to be happy with those roles or satisfied with those roles. They still got opportunities and areas to compete. And that's what we'll do this week. So what I want to see this week is the ability to go out there and have a practice today where we can go out there and get some high-level competition and to be able to come back on Wednesday with that scrimmage and have a high-level competitive area in our scrimmage where we can go there, right? Some things that you want to see get done is to get ready for that game week and the preparation and the stuff that goes into that and really driving home what's going to be important for us to go out there and get some wins.
I think it's fair to say that you're always an optimistic person. You believe in this team, but how much more strongly or more confident do you feel having added two players of this caliber?
It's hard to say. I'm not more confident. I mean, the two players, we're talking about, I don't know how many Pro Bowls they got amongst each other, but you're talking about grown men adding to your organization that got real true value, right? Justin Simmons, I mean, in his free agent visit or whatever you want to call it, in chops, he's talking about our team and our guys and Richie and what it means to him. Like, who does that? You know, like that fires you up. And then you're talking about Judon, and he's telling you exactly what he's going to bring you from his standpoint. You know, that dog mentality. And he didn't use dog; he used a different word, but I loved it. Right? I'm like, yes, bring him. And yeah, you know what I mean. So it's like you definitely get excited about those things and being able to add those pieces. But, you know, two players that you get glowing recommendations from people that they played with, from when the signing goes down, when you guys report it, when we think we're being secretive and it comes out that Led told everybody. And everybody calls me excited about the people that they work with and people that worked with them before, whether it be in Denver or whether it be in Baltimore, whether it was at New England. Fan base, you know, because we all got friends and family all over the place that call you and excited about people. So, like, it creates a buzz. It creates an excitement. And it creates those things that coaches all want and players all want. And it's the mentality that I love to be in. It's the mentality that I love to be a part of. So that fires me up, no doubt about it.
I'm going. When it comes to Justin and Matthew, I know obviously we're talking about getting them on the grass and everything, but the reality of the situation is that there's 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks until the season starts. There's a kind of like drinking water out of a fire hydrant type of thing that they, I'm sure from a mental standpoint, have to get ready. So when it comes to their week over the next 2 weeks, how much more meetings are on their calendar with like maybe one-on-one with Jimmy to try and get them up to speed on where y'all are from a defensive standpoint?
Tori, I got a big picture vision, right? And it's more role clarity for how to beat your first opponent, right? So if you can define and make clear role clarity for these guys and what you need them to do going into each week, all that stuff will grow. So I don't look at it as the 3-week fire hose. I look at it as the process. I hate to steal the Philadelphia 76ers words, but like it's the process of where we're going to be and how we're going to make that thing grow from a week-to-week standpoint. So for us, it's great. We've got plenty of time to get them ready, right? Get them out there. A lot of creative urgency from the guys, a lot of creative urgency from the buzz, a lot of creative urgency from them, right? They got something to prove too. So like we all do, and that's the beauty of the NFL.
You guys
Circle back
lost Rondale a few weeks ago.
You guys are so rude today.
Have you seen what you wanted to see from the wide receivers? You know, have guys stepped up, and like, how are you kind of handicapping that right now as far as wide receiver room.
That's tough, you know, when you lose that speed of Rondell. And he was starting to come on, you know. He was starting to develop some chemistry with Penix, but he was also starting to develop his role, right? And his role was getting clearer and clearer as we watched him on the practice fields. He became a deep threat and was able to create some real speed for us, right? But you got a high level of competition going out there. We were able to see a little bit of it from the preseason game with Chris Blair. You able to see a little bit that first week with Casey. You able to see a little bit of it with Drummond, some of the new guys that we brought in with Matthews and some of those guys trying to find their spot, trying to fill that role that Rondell had kind of started to really embrace. And obviously that adds a little bit more stress on some of the starters, right? The Drake, the Mooney, the Ray. It creates a little more urgency for those guys, right? And it creates a little more opportunity for a guy like Hodge and some of those things. And you just never know. Terry is upstairs busy right now, you know. Who knows what's going to happen after we come out of practice today. You guys might have more reports and ask me more questions tomorrow. But it certainly creates urgency for us to fill that role that he was starting to divine. Because I keep saying this word, but you know, role clarity is really important when you talk about football and you're talking about giving people real initiatives to do things.
I can circle back to Saturday. Did I understand you correctly after the game that you don't plan to play Michael this week, Friday night?
No, it'll look really similar to what we did, right? Michael's role is really clear on what we want to see. You know, we had a chance to get him 2 really hard practices versus the Dolphins, which I value just as much as these games. And I got a chance to get him out there versus the Dolphins and go out there and all these things about mitigating injuries. And you can't affect them all. You can't help them all. But this is certainly a player that I could, particularly with our scrimmage coming up. You know, in a normal year, you like to get 4 of those joint practices to be able to get those evaluations done, to be able to mitigate injury. I've been able to simulate 3 with other people, getting a little bit of game work action. I think it was 25 or so plays. And within those practices, we're able to get a lot more than that. And I'll be able to get a nice look at him on Wednesday and some of the problems and the things that we want to see if he can actually grasp and hold on to a little bit more from our standpoint, which he's done a great job of getting better throughout this process. So it'll be really similar look how we went about our process this week and how we approach this next preseason game.
So the complaint that I've always heard is you can't develop backup quarterbacks because you just don't have enough reps out here. To give up those reps that you did in the preseason game with Mike is that it's just about injury. It's just that those reps are not worth the injury risk to you.
The complaint didn't come from me about developing a guy here, but you know, you've been here, Josh, and you've seen the amount of reps that Michael's been able to get without really taking away from our starter in Kirk, and it's been awesome. And I don't see that varying at all in his developmental plan, even moving into the season, because he'll be able to have 100% of the reps versus our defense, right? And he's getting, I don't know how many reps he's got versus our starting defense now, but he's got a huge amount of reps versus our starting defense. And I feel really good about where he's going and where he's going to develop. And, you know, if I felt that way, I could play him a little bit more if I needed something else, but I don't feel that way. And I don't think any of the people that I would talk to in that circle of trust would feel that way, or we'd be playing him a little bit more, but we don't feel like we need to.
You've made mention twice of this scrimmage happening on Wednesday. How does that differ from what y'all normally do?
It'll have a different look. We'll be on one field. We'll be down here on field 3. We'll have the bench set up like it's a game right on this field, and we'll be able to have the teams on the side. We'll have the 1s versus 2s. We'll get a couple mock long drives. We'll get some short drives. We'll get some special teams mixed in where you got to go 1 snap at a time. We'll be able to mock this thing like a game in order to get those guys going. We'll go in for a halftime, make you guys wait out in the heat for 10 minutes. We won't have open locker room at halftime, no lead. And then we'll come out, we'll be able to activate again and get some more drives going, get a little bit of special teams going, get a little burn, get a little tired, let them feel what that feels like, all the guys. I'm really excited about it. You know, I got a chance to do some of this before and in our career when we had all these things before the joint practice became really popular. But this would be fun to do with our team. This would be fun to get out there and get a chance to go through that process because you got to be locked in. It plays like a game. You're using the guys that you would have, probably a little bit extra than you would have than a normal 48, but you get to simulate some special team work, simulate some situational things that come up organically for your coaches, for your players. And people forget about the lack of detail that your coaches got to put into the situation of the ball as well, because that's something that's really important to continue to grow and develop in what we do.
Going back really quick, when you first came here, you kind of set the expectations of what you want for this team and where it wants to go. But last week, in the span of really like 24 hours, the organization kind of just went all in right on the sleeper, you could say.
Here we go, the all-in mentality. I knew it was coming.
What
Got to call Les Snead up, man. Give him his credit for taking that one.
what does that say about where you guys are right now? Kind of that move, making those moves in this season.
Yeah, I knew that when I got here. When I got the job, right? Arthur Blank made that really clear what he wants to do, and that hadn't changed.
To go back to the safeties, why do you think that that traditional model we were talking about earlier, why do you think that has changed? How much does Vic Fangio play into that, and the Porter's kind of dominant?
Everybody wants to give Vic Fangio credit. He's a great coach. Leave Vic alone. No.
Does it help that Justin played for him?
It certainly does. That talks about him being how uniquely smart he is. Some of the stuff that he's done, some of the systems that he's done, that definitely helps. Vic Fangio is like one of the best coaches that's ever coached in this game. But realistically, the safety thing started because of you got to go back to college ball, man. All these wideouts coming out, and you got to be able to cover now, and you got to be able to play in space. And like back in the day, we can throw lead in the box and be a strong safety and he hit you. But if we put him out of space, he got issues, right? And these guys got to be able to have some spatial awareness in the back end, and also to be able to get up in the box and make some plays. So like it's fairly unique, like Monty Kiffin in the Tampa 2, like John Lynch had to play a little half field, and that was always an issue. But when we did some of our single safety stuff, we can Lynch rule it and put him down in the box and put Dexter Jackson or Dwight Smith or whoever that guy was at the time in the back end and do some things. But now you want to be a little bit more interchangeable than that. Let's take some shots at John right now. We've got a chance. He didn't want to be in the middle of the field, no. But we had to do a couple of things like that. So it's changed a little bit.
You had a very interesting week last week. And I heard local radio say, give credit to Terry. His phone must have been on fire with all the things that he was doing. And Chris Lindstrom for remanaging his deal.
No doubt.
Are there any other shout-outs that you want to give to folks that help you feel more confident in being able to put the best team together you possibly can?
I'll be honest. I've gotten so much support just from everybody in this building, including Tori, since I've been here. It's just like it's Taryn. Like everybody from this building standpoint. Things have been done the right way. From operations standpoint, on what we eat, how we travel from Brandon Roof, how we move throughout the building, the construction that's been going on. You guys have seen it. From ownership all the way down throughout the whole process of people just wanting to jump in and do jobs. Everybody but Bassity. But it is the support, it's hard to complain. I found more things that are good than I want to change, if that makes any sense.
What's the fine and/or punishment for trying to steal your seat on bus one?
I'm not. It's a warning the first time. The next time I might put hands on you? No. No.
All right, thanks, y'all.
All right, guys.